Hi, I'm Sherry Reichert-Ballou. I am author of Say It Now, and I'm a certified high performance coach. And I have been having so much fun talking to other certified high performance coaches. And today I have Natasha Mogg-Addis here, who is also, let me see if I get this right. You are a transformation coach for leaders.
I am, amongst many things, but yes, I
am. Natasha, you didn't know how I was going to start this off, but I want to start because there's so much hard stuff going on right now, difficult things and loss and grief. And I want to talk about the heart behind you. Tell me about that.
Well, the heart behind me, number one, is a marker, I think, more than anything, that sits in my office. It's on a beautiful mantelpiece in my office, and it's there as a symbol to really remind me and my team, because team comes into the office and my family come into the office because our office is here at home, of what actually leads everything that we do, that I do, and that I have begun as a mini movement at NM Consulting, which is my business, around the transformation that we elicit in clients, either with coaching, consulting, teaching. It blends into a number of different mediums that we use, but transformation is the end result, basically, and it has to come with absolutely bucketfuls of love in order to create a safe space for clients, and also that they feel it throughout the journey, and I really mean feel it. They go a lot deeper, they commit fully to the change, even when they don't know what they don't know. And that's the piece that I love the most, is that I have full belief and commitment to whatever's going to come, but I know it's going to be the transformation that they seek, and that tends to come very early on in the process, because that's the piece they could articulate, the bit they did know. They didn't know how they get there, but they knew that they wanted to be somewhere else. So that's the heart is. The heart's there. And what you probably can't, I don't know if you can see very well, but it's actually the little dots are lit up. It takes a battery.
I know, I love that.
So it means that we have a ritual as well every morning and every evening, that, when we leave the office, we turn the heart off and we put it back on in the morning, and we light a candle, because light is another huge piece of what we bring into the world in the ripple effect of that transformation. So that's a little window into my view of what transforming leaders in large corporations is all about.
Natasha, I am so excited to hear you share that. As you know, I had heard your story about the heart before and was very much inspired by it. But also what I want to say to you, you and I have been going back and forth in some wonderful messaging, and that's been so much fun. And we've been talking about just, what we could talk about and some different ideas. And what I knew from the very beginning is that part of why I wanted to just bring you on live with me is, even though you and I have never had much of a chance to talk in person, because we're always at events and it's so busy.
Yeah.
I heard that story about the heart, but also even before I heard that story, I felt it from you. So anytime I've seen you walk in a room, right, we don't even have to exchange words. You've influenced me. And I really wanted to start with that, because I think that that's so important. You obviously, you have so much to teach, and you know so much about leadership and transformation and the alchemy of leadership, as we talked about. But in the essence of it, and we have such a short time here, I also knew that without even having a lot of time to share, that you would convey that heart.
Thank you, Sherry, that's so kind, and likewise, actually. Well, let's start with what you've just said about me. Is not just a default of how I show up. It really is, but it's also on purpose. There's a big intention that is top of mind in all my interactions, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more about that, around how, for me, that is part of how you demonstrate leadership. You know, it is about going first, and others do notice. So I'm delighted that you felt that, because that's exactly what I would want you and everybody else in that huge environment of sometimes 2,500 people in a room. Even if you don't get to speak to 2,500 people, it doesn't mean that you can't leave an impression with them. And that impression can be everything to do with the influence that you have on others. It can be enough that somebody just sees you 2 or 3 times and they kind of go, oh, there's that person again. There's something about them. I like something about them. I have no idea who they are. I've not met them, but you stay in people's minds, and that's part of leadership and influence, in my view. And just to say, for anybody who knows you, who's, you know, clearly watching this, you have a very similar, as I would describe it, effect around you in public places where there's lots of people and so on. And it's an energy. It's in my language of how I describe it, it's a frequency that we're transmitting. And it, you know, as much as we transmit, we also receive. And others receive frequency from us, like radio stations, and we can actually decide what frequency we want to go out on. And so me, that's another huge piece around how we can choose to influence the world, is deciding what frequency we want to be on. Yeah.
I love the way, whoops, I'm sorry, I get a little echo. I love the way you just described that. And for me too, right, this is an intentional, I love, especially being in those big events, but anywhere, you know, I usually will say to myself the mantra, you know, be love, be light, be love, be light, to remind myself that whatever is going on for me, I do feel like it's I don't know, sounds funny to say, but I feel like it's my job in life to step into that place of love. And like you're saying,
I totally love that, and I feel the same way. It's my principal job on the planet, for which there is no financial transaction. It's just my principal job, and you can use the word purpose. It depends what word kind of resonates for others, but for me, it's my job. It really is, to show up that way and to lead any situation I'm in, or any interaction with that space, with that energy, and with that transmission, that frequency. Because what I learned some good years ago, and it's held me in very good stead to have it as a new belief as I was going through my own transformation, is that, you know, behavior is contagious. So yeah, so when you know, we're living in a massive contagion right now, but it happens to be a virus. But here's the thing, we can be the most positive contagion on the planet. And just that ripple effect, that personal impact, as I would describe personal impact, is that we get to choose what frequency we're going out on, and we get to choose how we purposefully decide to, like you say, remind ourselves who we want to be, how we want to be felt, and the impression that we want to leave others with, and the feeling that comes with that. There is nothing more powerful, I believe, than when you even go into the science, you know, the quantum mechanics of things, the physics, the biology, the chemistry that changes within our bodies when we move from one emotion to another. So for me, when we talk influence, I don't think there's much more powerful than changing somebody's chemistry for the better because they're with you. I genuinely, it's my biggest wish for the world at large to really go away with a message of knowing that every single person on this planet has the same capability, vat, let's say, of influence and role modeling and all the things that, you know, are equated to great leaders in one way or another. I just want to help them switch that on and to step into it powerfully, and own it, and know that they can do so much good in the world by just switching it on and really knowing they have it. Yeah.
Ah, Natasha, I have something more I want to say about that. But first, I think Billy just demonstrated this for us. Can you see his wonderful comment?
I've just seen the chat. That's so cool. Billy!
You know, he just really brought the energy with those fun stars, the light, right?
Yeah.
That can change us.
Totally.
And so here's what I want to say, because this is exactly the conversation I was hoping we could have today, which is that there are a lot of people, understandably right now, panicky and scared, and really a lot of people going through a very difficult time. And I feel fortunate, and I'm going to kind of project onto you that this has been a long time practice for you of how you are able to step into influence.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's somebody listening right now who maybe they want to show up for their family in a more positive, loving way, but they're overcome right now by fear, anxiety, what would you say?
I would start by probably switching off the news channels. That has to be the first thing to do. Disconnection, a purposeful disconnection from only one mode of transmission that is coming towards them. You know, there are, you know, I'm no physicist, but I've mentioned science or physics, but I understand it. I should just digress momentarily. 2 years ago, we were on a family holiday with 2 of my 3 boys, and we literally went for the first time, I think ever, to a hotel, and we were lying on lounges and sunbathing. You know, it's not my usual type of holiday. I love to get in the sun, but not for a whole week or 10 days or whatever.
Yeah.
Guess what book I took on holiday? I think I took 2 or 3, but the one that absolutely captivated my heart was one written, and I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but by one of the world's leading quantum physicists, who's an Italian man who wrote this short paperback, making quantum physics and quantum mechanics, as it's known now at the highest level of what we know, made easy for, you know, so you can read it and understand it. And here I am reading this on literally everyone around me was like, only you, mum. Only you. You know, only you. It's like everybody else is reading gossip magazines, or, you know, chugging back the next cocktail from some promotion that's going on, whatever it was. And I'm sitting there reading my quantum mechanics made easy. And I say this because I actually read that book, and I actually got a really bad grade in physics way back when I was 16 or whatever, and then dropped the subject quickly because it really wasn't going to be my thing. But, do you know, I fully understood the whole piece of how stuff that we do know that is scientifically proven now or understood, let's say, absolutely relates to the magic of how we can turn ourselves around. We can pirouette in a moment of what we focus on, and how it makes us feel, and then what happens next in that next moment as a result of the change that you started at the beginning of that chain reaction. And it is a chain reaction. I call the chemistry, you know, around endorphins and serotonin and all these wonderful, happy, literally mood enhancing hormones and chemicals that we release from our own internal pharmacy. I call those drug of choice. Oh, they are drug of choice. And I want people to know they exist for them. And I have no love or desire to align this to any kind of, you know, other drug taking activity, but actually this is innately in us as humans. And we get to choose. I believe we get to choose. And I have this experience every day of my life around how you can decide to release happier, mood enhancing, positive drugs in your body that help you stay on track. And actually, I think it's one of the most important self-state management pieces to learn. I would love that they taught this to children. You know, how to flip the switch from focusing on the negative and actually in a nanosecond, actually what you can do to absolutely change the chain reaction and take it in a positive direction.
Oh, you see, I'm so excited as you're talking. This is because in my own world, you know, my company is Simply Celebrate. I talk about pinpricks of light because to me, moments are everything. And I think our whole lives happen in a moment, right? Each moment we get to choose. And so I am always encouraging people to simply find one little pinprick of light. Just whatever, you know, might be, you know, having an interaction with your child, or it might be feeling the sun on your face, or holding a cat, or whatever it is for you.
Yeah.
Because exactly what you said, as soon as we do that, and it's so beautiful the way you said that, in a nanosecond, instead of facing the dark over here, the sun just came. It's so fun. The sun just like really literally came out stronger right now. That was so great. We're turning to the light, and now we're heading that way. And like you said, it's just, you know, it's one small choice after another. And in my life, I mean, my history, that was the only way I could do it. You know, I was so depressed, so full of anxiety. I didn't think I was going to really make it. I could only work in moments.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Just like you're saying, if someone, I love that you started with that.
Yeah.
Disconnect from that frequency that's coming at us.
Yeah.
It's fear.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Completely is. And just as we can turn the tap on the happy hormones and the chemistry that leads us to feel better, and therefore feel calmer, and therefore feel more in control, and all of the things that the chain reaction is that. And then when you feel more in control, you might feel more confident to make the next decision that takes you in a positive momentum, moving you forward from where you are and where you want to be. So for me, those choices, those understanding what is available to us to do that without having to pay anyone or to be on a course or to, you know, this is self-management. This is stuff that we can do at any moment, in any situation we find ourselves. And for me, another thing that sits alongside this big time in the journeys I take leaders through, you know, often one of the challenges that they talk about is conflict, because they're working in corporate and, you know, often with many other, you know, leaders that are leaders of other function areas and so on. But this relates to life in every moment, right? You know, we have people in our own families that we might not see eye to eye with on every subject and every topic in life. You know, if we've had siblings, I'm an only child, so I didn't grow up, you know, rowing with any brothers or sisters, but I certainly did with my mum and dad. I definitely know what conflict looked like there. And, you know, on the one hand, you know, brought up very much around adults. My grandma also lived with us, my Spanish grandma. So my mom's Spanish, my dad was English. And so I grew up in a very multilingual environment because my mum's brother also, who was Spanish, moved to France. So I had French cousins and so on. So we lived in this, and I lived in this experience of a melting pot around lots of adults. I mean, I lived in a house with 3 adults. My father never learned Spanish. My grandmother never learned English. And I learned all 3 languages. As a result, I became the facilitator, the mediator, the translator of conflict. you know, generally speaking, you know, my dad would roll his eyes and it's like, oh my God, you know, your grandmother and whatever. And my grandmother would be saying the same about my dad. And then there would be this 5-year-old sometimes translating between the two of them saying, no, you got that wrong, that she didn't say that.
Oh.
And it's that language piece then that kicks in for me. So you've got the chemistry piece, and then you've got this whole piece around how do you influence others to be able to have their say, you know, to have a voice and to acknowledge people, because I think influence of that level is literally, it can be life-changing in family situations or with a group of friends. And certainly I see it, you know, ring true in corporate space, where actually, you know, learning to just listen and have that level of respect. I do a lot of work around respect for influence.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say that what you're saying is this is so important, especially right now when so many people are quarantined with their family members, and people may have differing ideas about a lot of things, as you're pointing out, and possibly even about how to navigate this period of time. And I just wanted to really underscore that, what you said about really listening and respecting each other. Because I think that is another, it's a way to bring calm and to bring love and compassion into our households right now by simply listening. So thank you for bringing that in.
It's huge. It's huge. And as time wears on and this situation continues, the pressures of what's going on in the world and the external environment is, I think, possibly going to be overtaken for many by the situation internally in their own homes. You know, changing the dynamic of actually what they're focused on and what they want to work on. And for me, I get that there's a lot of people feeling pretty stressed right now, and life has changed so hugely for them. You know, they may not be working, you know, based on certain industries having to just go home. Some of them, you know, a lot of them working from home, often for the first time, you know, if office-based kind of environments are the norm. And then to throw in, you know, that if you have kids, the schools are off, so the children are now at home. It's unprecedented that, you know, for our lifetime, that situation is a given. And I've been on calls all day. I'm in the UK today, as you know, and what time is it? It's 6:25 in the evening. I've been on calls most of today with, you know, with corporate leaders. Actually, they're talking about coaching I've done and what we're doing next, or actually coaching. And
wow,
I would say that one of the big kind of opening pieces on those conversations is about the level of distraction that everyone has had, and the effort it's taken through this adaptation period. We're still in it, you know. For some, you know, the adaptation from what was the old normal to what is the current normal, and some level of transition over an uncertain amount of time on what the new normal will be going forward. And the biggest challenge I hear that's coming through that, and I think it's exactly the same for anybody, whether the environment is the corporate backdrop or it's whatever it is for you sitting at home, is the uncertainty of how long it's going to last. You know, and we're not good with that. We're at the stage in our world where we are conditioned to put timelines down, that we plan things, you know, we plan when we're going on holiday, and we plan it months ahead, and we plan what car we're going to buy, or we plan, you know, where our kids are going to go to school and when they're going to start. And some people, I can speak for this country, and I'm sure it's the same in the US, you know, some of these high level private schools, you know, people are putting down their offspring at birth, or when, you know, the baby's still not even born. So we're in a world where that uncertainty about timeline can be, I think, quite possibly unconsciously at this stage, the biggest wobble, because it means that planning looks like it's almost impossible. And I want to squash that today, because I think there's so much opportunity for people to be planning and executing quickly on who they want to be, actually, and actually use this time for reassessing elements of and aspects of themselves and their life, and quite possibly doing that with partners who are living at home, or if you're on your own, even better. No discussion with anyone else's thoughts or focus. You get to reinvent, you know, whatever you want in your life and how you want to be right now.
Wow, Natasha, that is so powerful, right? That I love what you said. That on one hand, we might just all be feeling like, well, everything's uncertain. There's no planning. There's no way to know what's going to happen next. But what I hear you saying is, yes, we do. We can. Right now, we have agency over who we are and what we want to bring into our lives. You know, within this crisis, right?
Yeah.
And we only have a few minutes, but I think this comes into play too with what you were just saying, is that we were talking about congruence right before we went live. Yeah. And I feel like my intuition is that that's very much connected to how we can plan who we are in this next phase. Can you just say a little more about that?
Yeah, I think the most, so part of what I do as well is, as you know, sort of under the umbrella of personal branding, but actually it's an intrinsic part, I think, of leadership, in that personal leadership is about who you are. Leadership is not something for just the realms of corporate high achievers, you know. Leadership is how we choose to show up in the world, and at what level we set ourselves to consistently show up. That's what I help leaders do, is actually set their own level. I don't tell them where the level needs to be, because I'm not with them every moment of the day. They need to set the level. And I would say to anyone listening right now, just have a think about what level, you know, in different situations, perhaps you have set your bar, let's say your standard bar. And I suspect, as is common with clients that I work with and my family and my friends and so on, is that you assign potentially different standards for different environments or different interactions. Okay. And, you know, I wouldn't be a transformational coach if I wasn't going to kick everybody up the backside today and say, that's all well and good. And that was in the past, but now you've heard this, you can't unlearn the good stuff. I often say that. So I want you, as part of the homework after today, to be thinking, what standard would you like to set yourself by which you will never fall below consistently in all situations? And you can think about in your relationships, in your presence, in your energy, in how you approach conversations. I mean, just literally on every level. It goes to, you know, for me, personal brand is three things. It's what I call the ABC. The appearance, so how you show up visually, because we can decide to look like anything every day. Like I could have come on wearing sports gear and had my hair pulled up, and you'd think everybody would be like, shit, she must be really sporty. She's come on in her sports equipment. She's working out, you know. Or I could come on in an evening gown and you think, oh, you know, I've just got on, it's 6:30 here in the UK. You know, we're having a dinner, you know, a virtual dinner, whatever. Like the joy for me is that you get to reinvent everything about yourself. You are the leading star in your life movie. You get to choose the script, the wardrobe, the environment. You know, set your environment while you're at home. Go around deciding what, you know, what actually isn't congruent with who you are? Have you been living too long with that corner in that room that really bugs you? Or, you know, is the bed pointing the wrong way around? Is it, you know, what is it that in your environment could change? And more importantly, then, you know, turn it on to you and kind of think about, if you've got a new start, because this is kind of what we've got right now, if you want to see it that way, is what would you want to level up and fine tune and turn the dials on in your own, in the way that you show up in your life with others? How do you want others to perceive you? And, you know, if you were to walk in as the invisible man or woman in a lift after people that you've been with are talking about you in a good way, what would you want them to say? How would you want them to describe their interaction with you? What would they want? What would you want them to go away with? And I think this is something that just people give really almost no thought to on a life level, just in certain cachet moments. Like I say, you know, somebody's got a presentation to give, or they're going to speak at an event, or they're going to get on the phone and talk to somebody. Then they think about it just briefly beforehand, or sometimes for a long time. But I want you to think about this for everything, because it matters in every situation.
What a hugely important thing to end this conversation with, Natasha. I really thank you for that, because when you were talking, I was thinking what you're saying is important all the time, but I feel like especially right now, because every person that we are interacting with right now, they need us. They need us in a new way. I really believe this. And that if we can show up, like you're saying, with intention and with congruence and really knowing, you know, who do I want to be, you know, whether it's more compassionate or a better listener, or I want to show up and bring humor, I want to be that person, or I want to be, you know, however it is, I just feel like that is what is going to get us all through this. So, holy moly, thank you. I knew this was going to happen, because there's so many things that you have to offer that I wanted to talk to you about, but I feel like this has been wonderful.
It's been fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been wonderful. It's as I was saying before, I'm not much on social media and exposed online. So I loved when you reached out and invited me on. So thank you very much, and it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Out there, literally, just take anything you've heard and go do it. Really, that's that's transformation. You're doing it. It's not something you heard that was a good idea. Go do it.
You know what, Natasha, I love that. You know, that is the perfect, because you offered throughout this conversation a number of small next best actions that people could take, and I'm right there with you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Be well.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.